is part 2, baby. So yeah, we're going to make these pants, and as I think with most of this cosplay, it's quite straightforward, so we just have to cut out 2 rectangles, 3, 4, 5 rectangles, and then you're good to go, almost. So yeah, this part will be showing you how I cut out those rectangles and what I cut away from those rectangles and how I folded the fabric to make these patterns. What I would note to you is that make them too long rather than too short. Mine is like just long enough, but it kind of looks strange. So that's perhaps because I don't have the shoes. So perhaps when I get the shoes it will look fine. I don't know, but as of right now, I'm not going to do anything with it, but it's a tad bit short. If I just had 5 more centimeters to go, I would perhaps have it a better. Perhaps it would have been better. I don't know. It turned out like this. The second thing I would note is you have the seam that goes along in between the legs. Don't make that too tight, you will have a camel toe. If you're a girl, if you're a boy, you probably know. Yeah, as I said, it's quite straightforward, only red fabrics in this video, except what you see that I have right now. So I think we can just get started with the time-lapse and my hopefully not too awful voiceover. Making of the Hakama pants to Yamato. The first thing I want to note is buy enough fabric. Buy at least 2 yards, because I was thinking 100 centimeter each foot, but of course I only bought 1.5 meter, approximately 1.5 yards, so I had like a bit less fabric than I wish. I'm now measuring out a 50 centimeter width of the leg, and I'm cutting out 2 pieces of this one, and I'm also checking the length. And as noted, please add at least 5 centimeters. You can cut that off later, but make sure you have long enough pants. I think mine got shorter because I had to adjust the crotch. So the side seams of this pant is just straight seams going down. The only thing that's different is the crouch seam and then the V seam that you get on your side. I will show a close-up of that when I have drawn that down. And you also have to make sure that you have enough fabric to add the folds. So if your waist is 70 and then you take away 10 centimeters each side to the V shape at least, then you sit with 50 centimeters and then you have 25 on the front and 25 on the back, and then you divide that by 2. But you can't have 25 divided by 2 because then you won't have the folds, so you make sure that you have enough fabric so you can have those folds. And the folds depend on how big you want them, so I think mine were about 8 centimeters. Now I'm cutting out the waistband. Again, make sure you have a nice width of it and that it's long enough. Mine got a tad bit tight, but again, when I wore the belt bow thing, and it didn't matter then because the belt I had to wear to hold up the bow was even tighter than the waistband, so it didn't really show. but yeah, for comfort, make sure you have it big enough. Now I'm cutting out the bow. This will be the 2 pieces that hangs down from the bow, and the smaller square is the main bow. I'm not making the Hakama pants as I would if I would have made a real Hakama pants. This is just something that looks like Hakama pants. I think the back side is a whole different look than what I went for here. So, but again, the back won't really show because of the bow. And I'm just doing what looks like in the anime. It's not a competition piece. If this is a competition piece, then try to make it accurate in that sense. Now I'm just overlooking the sides. I don't have any red overlooking thread, so white it is. You could also always go over with a red pen or a Copic marker or something to mark out the white threads that perhaps shows someplace. And I'm doing this only to make sure that it doesn't fray and that it's comfortable on the feet. You could also do a French seam, but I was like, ah, no, whatever. I also think it's easier to work with when it has an overlocked edge. This fabric is the same fabric as I used on the kimono top. It's bi-stretch, but the bi-stretch has no stretch. It's a kind of heavy, flowy material, really easy to work with. And it's not getting as much, I'm not sure what to call it, folded edge as the cotton fabric does. So, but again, this is, you take what you have and what you can find. I'm not sure what they use in real Hakama pants, but perhaps silk. So if you have the opportunity to do that, then please do. And if that is awesome, please tag me in your picture so I can see what your result was like. Now I have measured up how much space I would need each of the side panels to be, and then I'm folding away the excess, which will go into the fold. So you can see that I'm folding away quite much of the fabric. So I'm left with perhaps only a third of what I started with. I think having wide enough legs when making a Hakama pants is really essential, because if they're too slim, then it just looks strange. And in some of the photos I've seen of Yamato, the Hakama pants really look like a big circle skirt in the sense of that much fabric. So yeah, I really made sure to get as much width of the leg as possible with the fabric that I had. Now I'm just locking in the folds with my regular sewing machine, which I can sew over needles with, before taking it to the overlock machine, which I can't have any needles in. Trying it, and again, make sure the crouch seam is big enough. It's really not comfortable when it's going up there. Now I'm ripping out a piece of the back where the zipper is going. I decided I wanted the zipper to be on the back because I'm going to have the bow there anyway, so it won't show. And since I'm not making a real Hakama that would close in the front with the bow, I would need to do something like this. Now I also have sewed on the waistband with my regular machine just to have it on there, so I know that it's not shifting when taking it to the overlock machine. And I decided to glue down all my seams so they're not showing. I had one tube of old glue and then I had one tube of new glue, so I used the old one first. And the old one had dried a tad bit, so when I applied it on the fabric, it didn't soak through the fabric. So I really liked it. Now you can see I'm going in for the second round. And now you can't see the overlocked edge at all. And this is essential at the sides of the pants and at the bottom of the pants. The rest of the seams, which is on the inside, you don't have to bother with at all because they won't really be seen. So yeah, I luckily had enough glue of the old one to do both the sides of the pants and the hem of the pants. So yeah, I need to use fabric glue some more to figure out how I can glue down things without the glue soaking through the fabric. Going through twice so the overlock seam isn't seen. Make sure to do that on both legs. Now I'm attaching the waistband onto the back of the Hakama pants. I had perhaps 10 centimeters of gap in between to illustrate the V shape, or to get the V shape. Yeah. And just securing it in place with my regular sewing machine before taking it to the overlock machine. The overlock machine has a really sturdy seam, so I really like using that whenever possible. Now I'm going to attach the zipper, and again, since this really won't be shown, I didn't bother with getting an invisible zipper. But I made sure that the fabric would overlap the zipper so that it wouldn't show more than necessary if it was going to be seen, because I don't have the bows yet as of right now in the video, so I don't know how low the bow will sit and how much of the zipper it will show. Now we just have to fold the waistband. I always like to use a waistband that is folded double to have it make sure that it has enough structure and that it will hold shape better, and not being greedy on the fabric here. If you want it even more sturdy, you can always add another layer of fabric within, or you can use fabric stiffeners, which you can iron on or sew on. I don't think it's necessary for this cosplay, but it's something to have in mind. Now I'm hand sewing one of the sides for the weave because I was like, I don't want any visible seams. But then again, I remember that I'm going to make the bow, and you really won't see the seam unless you look really close. So just machine sew this seam unless you really want to hand sew it. You could also glue it down, but yeah, I ran out of glue of the old one, and the new one was like really wet, so it just soaked through the fabric. Hand sewing sure is a long and tedious thing to do, but I do hear some people enjoy it. Here I'm testing the new fabric glue, and I'm like, why isn't this the same as the other one, even though it's the same brand? And I think the age of it has something to say. And the fact that the old one already had been opened for a while. So yeah, I'm just giving up and doing the machine seam, and as I said, it doesn't really show, and as long as you use a thread that's really matching, then no one will really notice. Another thing to help with hiding the seam is making sure you have enough stitch length, not too long, and that you sew so that the seam is coming in between the top and the waistband and the pants. It's kind of hard, but it works. Now I'm just going to attach the bow. The bow was sewn inside out, and then I flipped it. I made sure to have the seam on the back side on the middle. So when I sewed first the long side, and then I made an opening in the middle, and then I folded it so that the seam was in the middle, and then I sewed the edges, and that way I hid the seam of the bow as much as possible. For the thing that's hanging down, I just let it be on the edge for it to hold its shape more better. So I just folded it in half, and then I just sewed around all three edges and left a gap in the middle, which will be hidden in the bow, and then just sewed it together. Now you can see how the pants look on. It's really tight in the crotch for me right now. I fixed that later with just removing half a centimeter. But yeah, thank you for watching, and please enjoy the next one.